Alright, welcome back to another video. And if you're a high-ticket coach running a VSL call funnel, then there is a good chance that half the people booking your calls aren't showing up, right? And the ones who do, they're showing up cold, skeptical, and needing to be convinced from scratch on every single call, right? So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I fix it, right? And here's what we're covering today. So number one is the real reason why your book calls aren't showing up the way they should, and the three structural gaps that I find in almost every coaching funnel that I audit, and exact system that I build to turn cold Instagram traffic into pre-sold high quality audit calls, right? And by the end is the one thing that you can change your funnel today that will immediately shift how prospects show up to your calls. And here's the thing that I want you to hold on to as we go through this, because by the end of this video, I'm going to show you the one reframe that makes cold prospects show up to your call already sold on the problem, right? So stay with me, because that reframe is the difference between a funnel and a system. So let's just get into it. But first, let me just paint you a picture in this micro board, right? Because you've already built the offer, you recorded the VSL, you set up everything in the funnel, and you're already getting bookings, right? But the show rate is inconsistent. So the calls that do happen, they feel like an uphill battle, right? And every week you're watching qualified people fall off somewhere between booking and actually getting on phone with you, right? Because here's what's actually happening on what you're currently doing, right? Your funnel is sending cold people who barely know you, straight to a page that asks them to make a warm decision, and they are not ready, right? Because you built nothing to get them there, right? And most coaches that I talk to think that this is a traffic problem, to get more eyeballs, run more ads, and then post more content. But the leak isn't at the top of the funnel, right? It's in the middle, and it's structural, right? So there are three gaps that I find in almost every VSL call funnel that I audit. Gap one is there's no front end warm up, right? So cold traffic hits the page and gets asked to commit before they feel anything. Now, gap two is that the call is framed wrong. So it only says here that see if you qualify, right? Or for some other funnel, it says book a strategy call. And what this does here is it only gives the prospect zero emotional reason to show up. So it sounds like a sales call, and nobody wants to sit through a sales call. Gap three is that there's no post booking infrastructure, right? So the confirmation page is just treated like a receipt, and nothing is working on the show rate after they book, right? And that's where most of their revenue leaks out. If you fix these three things, then your funnel stops becoming a leaky bucket. And here's what this looks like when this is working correctly. Cold traffic hits a quiz, right? They answer 12 questions about their situation, and that by the time that they finish, they already feel diagnosed, they feel seen, and they want to know what it means, right? Because they see the result and they see the copy written specifically for their pattern, and that's when the call CTA appears. Not as you pitching them, but as the obvious next step. Now they click through your application page and they go through a short qualifying form, and then they book. And then they land on a confirmation page that does three things. One is it reinforces their decision and tells them exactly what to expect on the call, right? And it also neutralizes every objection that they might use to talk themselves out of showing up. By the time that they get on the phone with you, they've already self-diagnosed and they've named the problem, and because they've read the copy that speaks directly to their situation. So your job on a call shifts from convincing them the problem exists to talking about what solving it looks like, right? And that is a fundamentally different conversation, and it starts with just one structural decision at the very beginning of your funnel, right? Which brings me to the exact system. I just recently built this entire call funnel for a men's performance coach, and here's exactly what I built. So the front end was a quiz, right? So there are 12 questions that across three layers. So here it is. Number one is the public identity. So let's just go through this for an example, right? And then the layer two is private reality. By the way, the public identity was about how do they show up in the world and how do others see them, right? And the next one is the private reality questions. What actually happens when no one's watching them? And these are targeted directly towards the ICP's situation. Let's just go through this. This, for example, is basically a pattern I can seem to break. When was the last time you made a promise to yourself and broke it? maybe a few weeks ago, right? Because there's already been they're still struggling currently. At the end of the day, where you didn't show up, do you want how do you handle it? I carry it for days, and it affects how I show up next. He could see a bright light for 1 week. Something I genuinely not ready for them to see. Maybe. So which area of your life is most impacted by this gap? Probably my business performance and decision making, because most of them are his ICP is most entrepreneurs, business owners, and CEOs. Now, here's the third layer, right? And this is the cause, and for me is the most important one that they should go through, because this tells them that what is the gap that's causing them in their health, their relationships, their business, and their sense of self. And what most people miss about a quiz like this is that the questions aren't just data collection, because every single one is deepening the felt sense of the problem before the prospect ever sees a CTA, right? So that by the time that they finish, they're not cold anymore, right? Because they've done the diagnostic themselves. So the quiz generates one of four named profiles, and each profile has a gap score and a breakdown of where the gap is widest and a copy that's written specifically to that pattern. So let's just finish this quiz right here. I've had the right framework or method. Keep starting over from zero after every setback. Is there really cost for not closing this gap in the next 12 months? I stay stuck being a man I don't fully respect. Here is the results page, and this is the purpose of this quiz, is to get their contact details, where we can target them with an email sequence after this front end, where they can put their emails before their profile is revealed. So the prospect is already invested. They just answered the 12 questions, and now they want the result. So the email completion at this stage is significantly higher than a cold opt-in, because the investment is already made, right? Then the result page delivers. So the profile, the gap score, and the copy, and the call CTA positioned as the natural next step to go deeper on what we just found. Now after that is the application page rebuild, right? Now this is the new headline that is rooted in the coach's real origin story, right? So the moment he looked himself in the mirror and couldn't respect what he saw. So that's the line that stops his ICP mid-scroll. So it's real because they feel it, right? So the transformation proof section here with all his client interviews, and then the qualifying form, and then the booking. Now here is the confirmation page after someone books. So 3 things working on show rate after they book. One is decision reinforcement. So it frames the booking as an act of identity and not a transaction. 2 is the expectation setting, right? It tells them exactly what's gonna happen on the call, and it removes the anxiety that makes people don't show up. And number 3 is the objection neutralization, right? And these are short videos answering the questions that the prospect use to talk themselves out of showing up. So these are the confirmation pages best practices, right? After someone books, is that you gave them in this page, you tell them exactly what to expect on the call, and below that is the breakout videos. And how you can do this is by doing a research on your previous sales calls. Maybe you can ask this from your team, ask them about the common questions that your leads have during the call, and what are the most common questions that they ask and the common objections that they have on the call, and then you're just gonna answer them by a 30 seconds to a 5-minute video below here, right? So these are the breakout videos that you can put, so you can just neutralize all the objection, and you can just pre-handle everything before the call even starts, right? So that's it. 9 stages: cold instant group traffic to a booked and pre-sold call. Now here's the one thing that I promised you at the start: a single reframe that you can make today that will immediately shift how prospects show up to your calls is to change what you call the call, right? Right now, go to your booking page and look at what you're calling the session prospect are signing up for, right? If it says strategy call, then change it. If it says see if you qualify, then just change it. And if it also says a discovery call, then change it, right? Because none of those tell the prospect what they're getting, and all of them just sounds like a sales call with a nicer name, right? Now here's the reframe: you name the call after the diagnosis it delivers, right? Not a strategy call, but the funnel audit call, right? Not a discovery call, but the identity gap audit. Not see if you qualify, but the performance blind spot session, right? So you name a unique mechanism to the call, because when you name the call after the diagnosis, three things happen, right? Number one is that the prospect knows exactly what they're getting because there's a specific deliverable attached to showing up. Two is that the call stops feeling like a pitch and starts feeling like an answer, and people show up to get answers. Three is that you're positioned as the expert running the diagnostic, right? Not the salesperson just making the pitch. So that's the one change on your booking page today. And if that single reframe shifts how your prospect show up, then imagine what the full system does here. Before I end this, here's the truth about call funnels, right? The coaches who close the most high ticket deals aren't necessarily the best at sales, right? They're the ones who built a system that does the warming, the qualifying, and the pre-selling before the call even starts. So by the time that they pick up the phone, the prospect already knows what the problem is, and they already believe that this person can solve it, and they're already leaning towards a yes. So that's what a real call funnel does. So if you want me to audit your funnel and show you exactly where your gaps are, then I've linked a free audit in the description. We'll go through together your funnel the same way I went through this one and tell you specifically what's leaking and how to fix it.